Welcome again to Dave Blaze. And he's a little clearer. You may notice how clear he is today. It's his cheery day today. What's
That's
gone
right.
wrong or what is gone right?
Well, I'll tell you what's gone right. President Trump, well, actually, a couple of things. It's not being discussed on social media anywhere, Rodney. This is the strangest thing. But in the Iranian negotiations, Jared Kushner, along with Vice President Vance, negotiated with the Iranians that here's what we're doing. We're taking a portion of the seized funds, right, that we sanctioned from the Iranians because the Iranian people are running out of food. So we're going to use that portion of the sanctioned funds to buy from American farmers food for the Iranian people, and they've agreed to that. They've agreed to unconditional, to infinity inspections for the nuclear programs. I mean, it's just a
Well,
lot,
that
a
is
lot
worth
of
having.
wins.
Certainly, after the Donald said, "Oh, it's the dust, this uranium stuff," sort of
Right.
a throwaway line, that one. But having said that, it's still $300 billion that
Yeah.
have been thrown in the pot,
No, no, no,
presumably
no, no,
because
no.
of
It's
the
$300
midterm.
billion. Listen to me. It's $300 billion that's going into escrow. It's being moved from the sanctioned funds into escrow. The Iranian regime is not getting $300 billion. It's going into escrow so then it can be paid out to the farmers for the food, for the transportation, and all of that other stuff. The other big thing that no one on social media is going to talk about
Well, it's
is that
not only,
now,
Dave, it's not only social media because half of the GOP are kicking off about it. Fox
I
News is
know,
kicking off.
they are, you have to understand, first of all, the media needs to keep you watching. They need the itch, right? So they need to produce that itch that you can only scratch by watching them. So everything is friction. Everything's for, oh, we have to make you aware this is big trouble. This is big trouble. We're giving them billions of dollars, big trouble. Say, but that's not the case. It's going into an escrow account. Same like with Venezuela. When the United States gets the oil from Venezuela, goes to our refineries, it's refined, and then it's sold on the open market. That money goes into an escrow account, which pays the Venezuelan people. So the police officers, the fire department, the government officials, all the people that are working in Venezuela get paid from that oil account. It's going to be the same thing, same setup with the Iranians. They're not going to be handed $300 billion so they can rebuild Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. That's out. That's not happening. But we can't let the Iranian people starve. And we're not going to let them suffer anymore just because they got a bunch of radical nuts that
Well,
are,
Dave, how would you deal with people like that? I mean, their Quran, their Bible tells them, the infidels, you lie to them. You do anything against them, and that's another virgin for you when you die. And in fact, you can give your life and you'll get 72 virgins straight away. How would you deal with a regime like
first of all, I've heard that it's not virgins, but it's Virginians.
that? No,
They get
probably.
72 Virginians. All right. So look, the Iranian people are not, how can I put it? These clerics, these radicalized clerics came into power and convinced the Iranian people that they would be much better under their rule than the Shah and the previous government. And the equate of that would be like if you invited, like you had a knock on the door, and there were these clerics, the mullahs at the door saying, "We must come in and we must warn you and we must help you." And they come in, they beat the daylights out of you, they rape your wife, they kill your kids, and then they say, "This was God's will." So this is basically what these mullahs did to the Iranian people. They've been beaten down for 4, almost 5 decades. So now we're giving them the opportunity to rise back up. They don't have the will yet to rise up against the regime. They will. Give them a little time, get them fed, see the money coming in to rebuild the land and to rebuild the cities and so forth. Not rebuild the nuclear stuff and all the terrorism, and the people will be like, "This is the life we want," and they'll
Well,
get rid of the
that's
clerics.
a positive way of doing it. But don't forget, the US is considered by these guys as the great Satan still.
Yeah, the quote unquote great Satan beat the daylights out of them and has all their money. They tried to shift around. They tried to shift around all the funds because they couldn't sell their oil in petrodollars, in the US dollars. So them and the Chinese and Brazil and all of these Russians, so they've been using Bitcoin to move money around. And these fools thought that they could keep the Bitcoin offline in cold wallets and then get the wallets out of the country and then have the Bitcoin exchanged, in different nations and so on. Our Federal Reserve and the US Treasury tracked it all, and we stopped them. And every bank that attempted to utilize Iranian Bitcoins, we sanctioned right out of the system. So that stopped them cold. And then we seized their Bitcoin. So look, they know their backs are against the wall. If the regime wants to survive at all. Now look, you also have to understand that the former regime is dead. They're all dead. The Ayatollah, Soleimani, the whole gang of them, they're all dead. The son is half alive. The son of the Ayatollah is half alive. And the people that are actually in charge are far more reasonable. Now, you still have the IRGC, which is like the lunatic Nazis in Iran, but they are losing power rapidly, rapidly. They don't have anything. What do they have? They have the little speedboats with guns attached. And every time they come out of their hole in the ground, we shoot at them.
Let's assume this works out and it's very pleasant thinking. Who, honestly, is the biggest danger in this world to world peace? Is it
Russia.
China? That seems to be top of the list.
No, China's after money. China's after money and greater trade power. And that's why they're after, frankly, not for nothing, Rodney. That's why they're after Taiwan, because Taiwan, they feel, is like a booming economy that if they could add their national wealth to the Chinese economy, it would really bolster China. But China's a threat, but they're really not a threat. The real threat is Russia, because Russia works so sneakily with propaganda, and they're always, always, always looking to expand. Always. So there's your real problem. The real problem is Russia. China's like, listen, if we cut China off, China's got real economic problems. They have we can squeeze the daylights out of China. So
Well, they got Hong Kong, and if they get Taiwan, that will be another star.
they're not going to take Taiwan. That's nonsense. And here's the reason. Because Taiwan will not be the end of it. Right? Once they get Taiwan, maybe we could take the Philippines. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could expand into the South China Sea. Maybe we could take over Indonesia. See, that's what it'll turn into. That's another reason why we have renegotiated and heavily armed our Japanese allies and have revved up their military, because the Japanese are fighters and the Chinese are afraid of the Japanese. Never forget that. In
Who
World
would
War II, the United States had to rescue China from the Japanese.
Yeah,
So
who would have
let's not
thought
forget that.
80 years on from Pearl Harbor that there are big mates once again?
Yeah, well, that's what happens. We beat them. They got crushed, Japan. They wouldn't have been as crushed if they had just surrendered, but they got crushed, and then we went in and rebuilt them. And we didn't rebuild them with radical people running the show, right? We're going to rebuild them with, people that are Americanized.
Well, this is all good news. We like good news. Let me give you some bad news now, and it comes from over the pond, of course, in the United Kingdom.
Well, I
And
thought Starmer resigned.
well, yes, but as we all know, you're only going to get from bad to worse. And that's what we've got with Andy. Oh, dear me. Everybody that is problematical in the UK is called Andy, whether he's a prince or not. And this is Andy Burnham, who has handled a mayoral position in Greater Manchester and thinks he can run from a £3 billion economy to a multi-billion pound economy, but he's not got the legs. And today he's just been handed me some news about said Andy Burnham. Now, you know the problem that Keir Starmer could not define who was a woman, because this is the ideology of the left.
Keir Starmer was a woman?
There's
Well,
allegations, but we won't go into
if
that.
he couldn't define what a woman is,
Exactly that.
then maybe he was a woman. I'm just asking questions.
No. That's a dead end.
Is Andy a woman?
No, but the dead end
Well,
is
who's a woman?
coming to an end. It's defined. The Supreme Court in Britain cleared everything up last year and
We
said,
don't have a Supreme Court.
we do indeed.
Do you really? What do they call it?
Well, the Supreme Court, surprisingly. Yeah. So we have actually came to a sensible decision and said, look, if you were born a biological man, you're a man. You can't suddenly decide, oh, it's Tuesday, I want to be a woman. And that would entitle you under British law and European law to go into ladies' toilets and dressing rooms. Now,
hold on a second. Now, hold on a second. I thought that this whole debate in the United Kingdom was settled with Monty Python's The Lumberjack song.
Well,
wasn't that settled where he where he put on ladies' stockings and hung around in bars?
You'd have thought that. But it's come back to bite Mr. Burnham before he's coronated into his position. And he's actually said, and it's bang up to date, 2026, he regards that as sacrosanct against the Supreme Court. No, anybody that's male can go into female dressing rooms. And he said at the end of this little speech, what's the harm in it? Now, if that's our next Prime Minister who asks a question like that, I'm sorry. There's a word that keeps coming out, Dave, and it's a lesson to anybody, both sides of the Atlantic. And the word is decadence. When you see an empire, a country fall, it's decadence. And it comes in through these brainwashes in our schools, both sides of the Atlantic. It comes in from strange people who want to promote things that are not normal. And boy, have we got shed loads of it in UK.
Okay, but I think I agree with you. I agree with you on that in principle, but let me frame it a little bit differently. You're bored. The people of the United Kingdom are bored. They have these kind of squabbles. Oh, let the guys in women's bathrooms, let the guys play in girl sports, and all of these nit type of problems. Like they're not big problems. They're just squabbles. Lots of squabbles all over the place. Now, what has to happen, seriously, is if God forbid Russia fires a rocket into London, then guess what happens? All of that problem it goes away. No one cares anymore because now the country has to unite. Right now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying these are the problems of a nation of whose people are bored.
Well, maybe you're right, but we've got to be on board and on board with the fact that our kids in our
Right,
schools, both sides of the Atlantic, are being shown things and instructed into normality that is not normal. And that's got to be tackled. Young lives
right.
will stay the same.
Right. And that all starts, however, I'm sorry to say, that all starts at a very local level. In other words, your local politicians at the town, city, county levels are the ones that have the greatest impact on your lives. The school boards, the taxation, property taxes, and all of that. That all comes from your local politicians. Doesn't come from state and it doesn't come from government. Your local guys are the ones to blame. So if you want to get rid of anybody, those are the ones to get rid of.
Well, it's the government that sets the law in the United Kingdom and leads the way, and it will
Well,
misguide you.
and that's very true because if the counties and the little cities and towns don't abide by what the government sets forth, they don't get the funding, right?
Well, yeah, it's all down to the dollar, you're saying.
That's right. That's right. So in other words, if the school board does not teach the approved curriculum, then the local school board will not get the state funding or the county funding, whatever you want to call it there. Right?
Okay, so resolution to
Okay.
this in
So
the
now
United Kingdom. Is there a way out? Politically, there isn't.
the only way that's why you have all the immigration. The immigration brings in people that are dependent on the government and will continue to vote however the government wants them to vote.
I
And
am
there
shocked
and there's your
actually
problem.
in the US that turnout figures for voting, and we have mentioned this before,
Yeah.
are awful in the US. How can you change that one?
True. The only time that people really come out to vote is once every 4 years for a presidential election. That's when you have people really coming out to vote, and we'll get 150 million, sometimes 200 million people will vote on in a presidential election. But your local primaries and your midterm elections that decide a lot of things for your life, for
Yeah.
your day-to-day life, people stay home.
Well,
And
the midterms are very important because it's the
yes,
House that they elect and part of the Senate.
right, right. I know. And the locals. You have local elections, governors and county officials and so on. All happens during those midterm elections, and people stay home. What can I tell you? And then, it doesn't help that these knuckleheads online tell people, oh, your vote doesn't matter. You can't vote your way out of this. Stay home. It doesn't count and all of this. That's all rubbish. Your vote counts. That's why they don't want you to vote.
Yeah, these influencers are wild at the moment. And in Britain and in Europe generally, they will produce legislation to stop them. In the States, that will not happen. For instance, pornographic videos kids are sharing, even 10, 11-year-olds of each other performing sex acts. Now, that will stop in Europe.
Right.
Legislation's underway. But will it ever stop in the States?
I don't know, Rodney. I don't know. I got to tell you, I don't think parents in the United States have a firm hold on their own children. As much as they want to say parents' rights and the parents have the right and the parent, I don't want my child and all, they're all up in arms about stupid stuff. But when it comes to actually dealing with their children, they're not there.
Why? Are they
They're not
too
there.
busy enjoying themselves?
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I think a lot of them are just a lot of parents in the United States are tired. They're working maybe one or two jobs, a lot of hours a week, struggling to just make ends meet. It's hard to stay on top of everything. I know it sounds wild, but it's what it is.
A
And
radical.
these hold on a second, and these social media companies like Facebook and Twitter and the rest of them, they make tons of money by keeping you engaged. For example, when Facebook first started, for whatever, even Twitter, and you would follow people, but then you would scroll your feed in a for you type of thing. And when the people that you liked or the subject matter that wanted to see was enough, that was it. That was the end of the feed. Okay. So the social companies, what they do now is that as they see you viewing a particular video, they push more and more of that type of content onto your feed. So it's endless. It never comes to an end. These kids are on their phones watching and scrolling for hours. And it's just their brains are being turned to mush. They don't know how to think. Most of them don't know how to write. They can't even fill out an envelope to mail an envelope. They don't know how to do anything. Can't tell time on a clock. There was a whole video where a guy went around with a regular round clock. And he said, "Okay, can you tell me what time it is on this clock?" And 7 out of 10 of them couldn't. But think about that.
Yeah. Okay, we've mentioned something before, the halcyon days of the 50s. We'll have to finish with this one.
Yeah,
And it would be great if the guys of the household were earning enough money that the women of the household can stay at home, look after the family, and do a traditional family. And it seemed to work.
yeah,
Now, is there any chance of that, or should it come back? Certain countries are paying big benefits if you're a stay-at-home mum to encourage
right,
that. There's nothing in the
right.
States like that, is there?
Yeah, and it's coming. And it's called artificial intelligence. And you have no truly. Okay, give you an example. You have these little towns or cities, whatever, and right now there's paid propagandized opposition, foreign opposition to the building of the AI data centers. But these AI data centers coming into a particular town mean big money for that town, big jobs, job training. I mean, this is like the automobile industry times 100. So these data centers roll in. All of a sudden, people are getting trained for jobs that they can do. They don't require higher level education and so on, and they can do the job. And these aren't small jobs. These are high 5 and 6 figure jobs where you can earn a living and you can have a family and a house and a car and a couple of children and survive and make it. So I'm telling you, as this starts to grow across the country, you're going to see all of these towns clamoring for the data centers. It's going to be big.
Yeah, well, feel sorry for the United Kingdom. who pay twice and three times amount of electricity charges than you do in the US, and we want to attract data centers. Well, I'm sorry, they're not going to come
Why aren't they going to come?
because of the price of running them. It's mega what these data centers consume in electricity.
Yeah. But hold on a minute. Take a look at what Microsoft just did with Chevron. Two major deals over the recent period of time. First, Microsoft worked out a 20-year deal to reopen 3 Mile Island in Pittsburgh. Remember that 3 Mile Island
Yeah.
with the nuclear thing? Okay. So Microsoft is reopening that because they have a data center nearby, and 3 Mile Island is going to power it, along with the communities around it. Next, they just signed a 20-year deal with Chevron for a huge AI data complex in Texas that'll utilize natural gas. So, and that'll power the data center and the surrounding area. Power costs with it when a data center is involved will actually, for the average consumer, drop dramatically because of the data center being in there and subsidizing the power costs. It's big stuff.
Well, it's a can-do situation, and a lot of people are saying that the difference between the West and the US is the can-do. Find a bad situation and get out of it and make a buck at the same time. So well done.
That's right. That's right. And don't be fooled by these news reports that we're giving the Iranians $300 billion. That is not the case at all.
Well,
It's
more
going
fake
into
news. The
escrow.
Donald knows all about that. Dave, that's
And
it.
they're gonna and actually we're allowing them to sell oil, right? Which will get them some money directly, but the oil is going to be sold in US dollars, in the petrodollar. So no longer are they going to be monkeying around with their bricks. Bricks is dead.
There you go. You've cheered me up. I don't know about the customers. Maybe they're all asleep. But no, things are looking better, except in the dear old UK. We're getting the same of the same.
Well, I thought Nigel was looking to be prime minister.
Well, everything goes to the last by-election where he was beaten. But that was a special by-election just to get rid of the Starmer man. The next by-election will be very significant, and we can see whether Reform, Nigel's party, will succeed. Certainly, if it was Donald's choice, because they're big mates, it will do.
Yeah. Nigel needs to raise his profile on
Yes.
the national scene. I know it seems in where you are like he's doing that, but over here there's nothing about him.
No. There you go.
So if he gets on board, get him on. I know you're his whisperer. So if you can get him on board back on the Trump train and all, that'll raise his profile. And even though the media over there does not like President Trump, there's no denying what's going on. We kicked the Chinese and the Russians out of Venezuela. The Cuban communist government is collapsed. We're about to move into Cuba and help those people. We threw the Chinese out of the Panama Canal. BlackRock